Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for this paranormal pit stop. Tonight, we'll be exploring a historic church and graveyard located off Saint Roch Avenue in the Saint Roch neighborhood of New Orleans, Louisiana, serving as the national shrine to Saint Roch, patron saint of dogs, invalids, of the falsely accused, and of bachelors, among other things, and purported to harbor a wealth of ghosts. Are you prepared to brave the history and hauntings of the infamous Saint Roch Chapel and Cemetery? Historically, Saint Roch was born in Montpellier, France, circa 1295. Following the deaths of his parents, he would give all of his earthly belongings to the poor, and in 1317 would set out on a pilgrimage to Rome, which he would arrive to in time of plague and depression. Heartbroken, the young but infinitely devout disciple would begin blessing the sick, and after a time, locals would whisper of his powers, of his prayers or signings of the cross healing those afflicted. After a while, Saint Roch himself would become infected by the widespread illness around Piacenza. He would retreat into the privacy of the nearby forest, resigning himself to a quiet death, where his ailment wouldn't be passed to those he loved. But just before he perished, a dog appeared to him, bringing the saint food and licking his wounds, and it's said that he was nursed back to health quickly. The city of New Orleans was founded much later in history, through the 1700s by the French, was ruled for 40 years by Spain, and following the Louisiana Purchase was declared a U.S. territory in 1803. After its acquisition as a territory, and as New Orleans began a rapid expansion, development of the neighborhood that would one day be called Saint Roch was started around 1830 as Faubourg Franklin. Founded by Reverend Peter Leonard Thevis, the Saint Roch Cemetery would come into being in 1874, with its chapel being constructed the following year and formally dedicated in 1876. According to popular legend, through New Orleans' 1867 yellow fever epidemic, Thevis would pray to Saint Roch to bless his congregation, and when not one of his flock perished, he established the church and cemetery in good faith. In 1890, construction of a mortuary chapel dedicated to St. Michael would be started for Saint Roch Cemetery No. 2, which was located off Music Street, about a block away from the main chapel. Unfortunately, the good Reverend would never see it completed, and upon his death in 1893, he was laid to rest within the main chapel, in front of the altar, beneath its marble floors, while St. Michael's Chapel was completed in 1895, and a short time after was converted into St. Michael's Chapel Mausoleum. Over the years, both graveyards and chapels have seen countless changes, restorations, and alterations. In 2002, the Saint Roch Chapel was designated a local historic landmark, and in 2017, it was closed for a time while several on-site structural issues were addressed. Today, while the chapel is still undergoing restoration, planning for its reopening is already underway. Both cemeteries are kept well maintained by their congregation, and both the church and burying grounds remain active and functional into the present. On a creepily comforting side note, a small room off to the right of the chapel holds a range of offerings of gratitude to Saint Roch, some of which include old crutches, braces, casts, doctor's reports, and even fake eyeballs, among other assorted prosthetics. Over its ridiculously lengthy history, Saint Roch Chapel and Cemetery has birthed a number of ghost stories, with those frequenting its grounds reporting eerie voices heard emanating from sealed tombs, orbs visible to the naked eye, and the sensations of being watched, followed, or even touched by presences unseen. Some tell voodoo rituals performed on site over the ages have opened some sort of portal in the chapel, and a spectral hooded figure in a long black robe has been spied walking the cemetery after dark and is commonly mistaken for a living person before he's witnessed walking straight through walls. Chillingly, several reports suggest otherworldly activity at Saint Roch can follow individuals home, with a handful describing horrifying nightmares or even supernatural occurrences for up to weeks following their visits to the blessed site. Interestingly enough, when the grounds were inspected by a prominent psychic, she noted that the spirits that she encountered there were not angry or restless in nature, but rather that they simply desired to ensure the site stayed a place of peace, calmness, and rest. One more popular legend surrounding the aged chapel tells that sometime through the early 20th century, a young local woman named Carrie fell madly in love with a young man named Jimmy, who would leave her coded love notes with roses on the daily. Eventually, Jimmy proposed to Carrie, but sadly, he was shipped off to World War I before they could officialize their union, and was killed in action. As this legend furthers, Carrie laid Jimmy to rest within Saint Roch Cemetery and planted rose bushes around his marker, after which she tried to move on with her life and even got engaged. Before her wedding, however, she visited Jimmy's grave and asked for his blessing, to which she was met with the rose bushes blooming instantly as if by magic. Carrie took this sign as a resounding no and declined her new suitor's proposal, and as strange as it sounds, a few days following, her new man was arrested for the murder of his 2 previous wives. Today, many claim that young women visiting Saint Roch Cemetery on Good Friday to pray for help in finding a husband will be blessed with good fortune in their future relationships, a spell that, some speculate, is held in place by the magic of Carrie and Jimmy's undying love. Lastly, possibly the most infamous story associated with the old chapel and graveyard is fashioned from the countless reports of encounters with an unnaturally large black dog across its grounds. This creepy canine appears so lifelike that several have followed it thinking it a stray, before watching it fade into nothingness, and some believe it may just be the very same dog that helped Saint Roch in the forest so long ago. Thanks for tuning in for this Paranormal Pit Stop. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.